Have you ever witnessed a moment that changed someone's life forever? That's exactly what happened when my boss finally found what she'd been searching for all along. The restaurant buzzed with the typical Friday night energy, clinking glasses, laughter, and the warm glow of conversation. I watched from across the room as my boss, Elaine Carter, CEO of Carter Innovations, sat alone at her usual corner table. Even surrounded by people, she seemed isolated in her tailored blazer and perfect posture. I'd worked as her executive assistant for 3 years, and in all that time, I'd never seen her truly smile, not the kind that reaches your eyes. Tonight was our company's quarterly celebration dinner. Everyone was there to toast another successful quarter, but as usual, Elaine maintained her professional distance. She was respected, admired even, but never quite part of the group. At 38, she'd built an empire from nothing, sacrificing personal connections along the way. I wasn't supposed to overhear what happened next, but fate has a funny way of putting you in the right place at the right time. 2 tables away from Elaine sat Michael Reeves, our new marketing director. He'd joined the company just 3 months ago, a single father of 2 who'd moved to the city for a fresh start after losing his wife to cancer 2 years earlier. Unlike most new hires, Michael hadn't been intimidated by Elaine's cool demeanor. He treated her with respect but never with fear. Michael's phone lit up on the table, and his face softened into a smile I'd come to recognize. It was his dad face. He excused himself from his colleagues and stepped away to take the call, ending up coincidentally near Elaine's table. "Hey, sweetheart," he said warmly. "Yes, I miss you too. Did you finish your homework?" A pause. "That's my girl. And you remembered to help your brother with his reading?" Another pause, followed by a gentle laugh. "I love you to the moon and back, times infinity. Sweet dreams, princess." The tenderness in his voice was palpable. When he hung up, I noticed Elaine watching him, an unreadable expression on her face. "Your daughter?" she asked, surprising both Michael and myself. Elaine rarely initiated personal conversations. Michael nodded, sliding his phone back into his pocket. "Emma. She's 8. Can't sleep unless she gets her good-night call." "You're very devoted," Elaine observed, swirling the wine in her glass. "They're my world," Michael replied simply. "After their mother died, I promised myself they'd never question how loved they are. Not for a single day." Something flickered across Elaine's face, vulnerability, perhaps, or longing. "I wish someone loved me like that," she said quietly, almost to herself. The words hung in the air between them. I held my breath, feeling like an intruder but unable to move away. Michael studied her for a long moment before leaning slightly closer. "Maybe someone could," he whispered, "if you'd let them see past the corner office." Elaine's glass froze halfway to her lips. For the first time in 3 years, I watched my formidable boss rendered completely speechless. The Monday following the dinner, something was different about Elaine. The change was subtle, a softness around her eyes, perhaps, or the way she said, "Good morning," and actually waited for a response. She called Michael into her office mid-morning, and though the blinds were drawn, I could have sworn I heard laughter. Over the next few weeks, the transformation continued. Elaine started joining the team for lunch occasionally. She asked about people's families, remembered birthdays. The office atmosphere shifted from one of tense efficiency to something warmer, more collaborative. Michael was a constant presence, stopping by Elaine's office with coffee or simply to chat. Their professional relationship remained impeccable, but there was an undeniable current between them that everyone noticed but no one mentioned. Then came the company picnic in July. Elaine had never attended before, always claiming pressing business matters. This year, not only did she come, but she arrived in jeans and a casual blouse, her usually perfect hair loose around her shoulders. Michael brought his children, Emma, the 8-year-old with her father's smile, and Lucas, a serious 6-year-old with thoughtful eyes. I watched as Elaine approached them cautiously, clearly unsure how to interact with children. Emma had no such hesitation. "Are you Daddy's boss?" she asked, looking up at Elaine with frank curiosity. "I am," Elaine replied, kneeling down despite her designer jeans. "My name is Elaine." "Daddy says you're very smart and brave," Emma declared. "He says you built a whole company by yourself." Elaine's eyes widened slightly as she glanced at Michael, who shrugged with a smile. "Your father is very kind," she told Emma. "And he's pretty smart himself. Do you know how to play frisbee?" Lucas asked suddenly, holding up a bright blue disc. I'm afraid I don't," Elaine admitted. "I can teach you," Lucas offered solemnly. "It's easy." What happened next became company legend. Elaine Carter, CEO and notorious perfectionist, spent an hour learning to throw a frisbee from a 6-year-old boy, laughing when she missed and cheering when she finally got it right. I wasn't the only one who noticed the way Michael watched her, his expression a mixture of admiration and something deeper, more profound. The challenges began in September when rumors started circulating about a potential merger. Board members questioned whether Elaine's softer approach was affecting her business judgment. Whispers in the hallway suggested that her relationship with Michael, whatever its nature, was inappropriate. I found her alone in her office late one evening, staring out the window at the city lights. "They think I'm losing my edge," she said without turning around. "That caring makes me weak." "Is that what you think?" I asked carefully. She was quiet for so long I thought she might not answer. "I used to," she finally said. "I built walls because I thought that's what it took to succeed. To be respected." She turned to face me, and I was startled by the clarity in her eyes. "But Michael and his children, they've shown me what real strength looks like." "What are you going to do?" I asked. "Fight," she said simply. But differently than before. The next morning, Elaine called an all-hands meeting. Standing before the entire company, she addressed the rumors head-on. "Yes, our management style has evolved," she acknowledged. "And yes, our quarterly numbers reflect that change, they're up 15%. Employee retention has improved by 20%. Client satisfaction is at an all-time high." She paused, surveying the room. "I've learned that leadership isn't about isolation. It's about connection. About seeing people as whole human beings, not just productivity metrics." Her gaze found Michael in the crowd. "I've been fortunate enough to learn from someone who understands that balance doesn't mean compromise, it means strength." The board meeting the following week was tense but decisive. Elaine presented her case with the same precision and confidence she'd always shown, but now backed by something more, a genuine passion for the people behind the numbers. The merger talks were tabled indefinitely. October brought another challenge when Lucas was hospitalized with pneumonia. Michael took emergency leave, and for 3 days, no one heard from him. On the 4th day, I arrived early to find Elaine asleep at her desk, her computer showing hospital parking payment receipts. "You've been there every night," I realized aloud, startling her awake. She straightened, smoothing her rumpled blouse. "He shouldn't be alone," she said simply. "Does he know you're there?" A small smile touched her lips. "No. I sit in the waiting room. In case he needs anything." "Elaine," I said gently, "that's not what a boss does." "I know." Her voice was barely audible. That evening, I drove to the hospital myself, finding Michael in the pediatric ward cafeteria. He looked exhausted, the weight of worry etched into his face. "Lucas is doing better," he told me when I asked. "They're talking about releasing him tomorrow." "That's wonderful news," I said, then hesitated. "Michael, there's something you should know." I told him about Elaine's nightly vigils, how she'd been parking herself in the waiting room just to be nearby if needed. His expression changed from surprise to something deeper, more complex. "She never came in," he said, shaking his head in wonder. "Never said a word." "I don't think she knew how," I replied. But she wanted to be there. When Lucas was discharged the next day, Elaine gave Michael another week of paid leave without him asking. What she didn't expect was the handmade card that appeared on her desk, decorated with wobbly stars and a child's careful printing. "Thank you for taking care of my dad while he took care of me." By December, the transformation was complete. Elaine had maintained her business acumen and leadership, but the company culture had shifted dramatically. People worked harder not out of fear but out of loyalty and genuine engagement. The holiday party, usually a stiff, obligatory affair, became a true celebration. I found Elaine by the windows, watching as Michael taught Emma and Lucas how to properly eat the fancy hors d'oeuvres. "They're wonderful children," I commented, joining her. "They are," she agreed, her expression soft. "They've taught me more than any business course ever could." "And their father?" I ventured. A blush colored her cheeks, something I'd never thought possible. "Michael sees me," she said simply. "Not the CEO, not the businesswoman. Just me." Later that evening, as the party wound down, I noticed Michael and Elaine standing beneath the mistletoe, though I suspected it wasn't entirely accidental. Their conversation was too quiet to overhear, but I didn't need words to understand the moment when Michael gently tucked a strand of hair behind Elaine's ear, and she leaned into his touch instead of pulling away. Spring brought changes no one had anticipated. Elaine restructured the company to allow for more flexible working arrangements, starting with a pilot program for parents with young children. The business press called it revolutionary, employees called it life-changing. Michael and Elaine maintained professional boundaries at work, but their relationship had become an open secret. They complemented each other perfectly, her strategic vision balanced by his emotional intelligence, his creativity enhanced by her practical implementation skills. The true test came in April when a competitor made an aggressive move that threatened our market position. The old Elaine would have worked around the clock alone, driving herself and everyone else to exhaustion. The new Elaine called a strategy session that included voices from every department, including junior staff with fresh perspectives. The solution they developed together was innovative and effective, turning a potential crisis into an opportunity for growth. When the quarterly results showed a record profit, Elaine shared the credit with the entire team. "This is what happens," she announced at the celebration dinner, "when we recognize that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage." Her gaze found Michael across the room, and the look that passed between them spoke volumes. 1 year after that fateful dinner, I found myself once again watching Elaine and Michael from across a restaurant. This time, however, they were seated together, and Emma and Lucas were with them, engaged in what appeared to be a serious family discussion. I wasn't close enough to hear the conversation, but I didn't need to. The way Lucas leaned against Elaine's arm, comfortable and trusting, the way Emma looked up at her with admiration, the way Michael reached across the table to take Elaine's hand, it all told the story. Later, Elaine found me at the bar. "They asked if they could call me Mom, someday," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Not now, but someday, when we're all ready." "What did you say?" I asked, though I already knew the answer from the joy radiating from her. "I said it would be the greatest honor of my life." She looked across the room at Michael and the children. "Greater than any company I could ever build." As she walked back to join them, I remembered her words from a year ago, "I wish someone loved me like that." Now she had not just someone, but 3 someones who loved her exactly like that, completely, honestly, and without reservation. Michael rose as she approached, pulling out her chair with a tenderness that spoke of deep respect. As she sat down, he leaned close to whisper something in her ear that made her laugh, a real laugh that transformed her entire face. I realized then what had changed most about Elaine Carter. It wasn't just that she had opened herself to love, it was that she had finally allowed herself to be worthy of it. That night changed everything, not just for Elaine and Michael, but for everyone who witnessed their journey. It reminded us all that it's never too late to lower our defenses, to let someone see past our carefully constructed facades to the person underneath who simply wants to be loved. Sometimes the most powerful words aren't grand declarations but simple truths whispered at exactly the right moment. Maybe someone could, if you'd let them see past the corner office. 8 words that left a woman speechless and started a journey that would transform not just 2 lives, but an entire community of people who learned from their example that vulnerability is the truest form of strength. And it all began with a wish spoken aloud and a whispered answer that held the courage to make it come true. Asterisk: if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe for more moments that remind us what truly matters in life. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't found in fairy tales,